Good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. on Monday, September 25th, 2023, and I call the Winton Woods Board of Education meeting to order. If you please turn off your cells or put them to silent, and then we'll rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, which is the flag is behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you call the roll?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Present.
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Smith? Mrs. Kim?
Present. Thank you. We'll go on to our first point, district honors, recognitions, and introductions. Superintendent Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and Board. I'm going to reverse this just a little bit because Chief Fertelman has been such an integral part of the community as it relates to his being the incredible chief in Green Hills. We appreciate your services. We appreciate everything that you do. And the chief let me know earlier he's going to be receiving a call from Joe Burrow, so he's got to get out of here to make sure that the game goes the way that he wants to. But, Chief, I'd like for you to come up and say a few words about why you serve the way that you do and the commitment you made to the community and all the just awesome parts of who you are and why you are.
Thank you, Superintendent. You know, I think oftentimes organizations are a reflection of the community. I came to Green Hills 10 years ago and found a community that was friendly, and I was very fortunate to find a school system that was receptive to working with our police department. Mr. Smith, he and I have worked together on many overarching issues on a day-to-day basis. I've worked with Mr. Denny, and we've worked through a lot of issues, and it's always just been a pleasure. I can't tell you, I couldn't count the number of receptive school principals, assistant principals, and educators that I've met with that have been so very helpful to us. And we have enjoyed and taken advantage of every opportunity to be in your schools, to work with kids. If you look at the world today, it doesn't take you long as you scan headlines to see how divisive our world can be. We need to work against that at every opportunity. And that starts with those who are our future. So we want to be as integral part of the educational system as we can be, to be partners, to allow our children to see that we're moms and dads and brothers and sisters just like they have in their families. So we can't thank the superintendent and his staff for how welcoming they have been, and that has just made for a wonderful relationship, one that I have enjoyed. I know that other communities, sometimes entities don't always get along. That's never been the case here. So it has been an absolute blessing, and for that I thank each and every one of you, because the direction, of course, comes from the top, and we thank you.
As Ms. Kuhn comes up to give the chief his incredible gold-plated award, what you'll find out, there are articles all over the country where people are making some decisions about getting rid of school resource officers in schools. And then at the last minute, they want to call them back when something goes bad. I think having those resource officers are integral parts of what every community needs. And it's not just about what happens inside the school, it's about protecting the interests of the district outside. So, Chief, thank you for everything. I totally appreciate you. I read this little article that you were interviewing for another job, and I was concerned, and it says, as an official grandparent. So, way to go, way to go.
I think I've got the job.
Good job.
Come on, because your leg is better. Come back, come back, come back. All right, so the next award goes to Madison Bafor. Madison. I knew that was Madison. I knew it was you.
She says, no, mommy, you're coming with me.
Oh,
Oh, too cute.
made me nervous. So Madison's going to be receiving this incredible award about responsibility, and her teacher is here, her principal is here to make sure that we do this right. So Ms. Coombe, can you pick this up for Madison?
I know. Madison, you
Madison,
wanna
come in front of the
front?
podium.
She's too tiny, we can't see her. Yeah,
There we go.
she's like, I'm not going without my brother.
I
like
love
that.
it. I
I
do.
like that.
Too cute.
All right, so I'm going to read a little bit about Madison. Madison is a model student. She comes to school prepared and ready to learn every day. She follows along and participates in learning activities. Madison is also a great friend to her classmates. She's kind to everyone and is always smiling. She helps her classmates when they need it and motivates them to make great choices throughout the day. We're so blessed to have Madison with us and look forward to a great year with her. And this is written from her principal, Miss Elizabeth Stiles. Mr. DeMarc, I see you smiling. When you were Madison's age, did your principal write something like that about you? Okay, all right. Just thought I'd check. There's some other people in the room, too.
Mrs. Stiles and her.
All right, so let's get a picture with Madison, Mom, Miss Stiles, the whole crew. And Madison's attribute today is responsibility. The next recipient is Kiwanis Student of the Month Award, Winton Woods High School, Zaire. Zaire, do me a favor, pronounce your last name. LeCue, that's what I said. I got it. All right. Zaire LeCue has been nominated for September Student of the Month, and if you spent 5 minutes with her, you would know exactly why. Aside from being a top academic senior on her way to an honors diploma, let's clap for that. Zaya is a dynamic leader with a magnetic personality. Zaya has been a First Bell student aide in the counseling office this year. We welcome dozens of new students to our district since the start of school, and Zaya is usually the first Winton Woods student they meet. She is immediately welcoming and helps us to create a feeling of belonging for every new warrior. She selfishly volunteers to show each student around the school and help them get their bearings. I'm so glad we have her with us. Zaya is also a varsity cheerleader. And it is no surprise that she was chosen as captain. I'll go back to my friend, Mr. DeMarc. When you were, no, I won't even say it. All right. There are a lot of big personalities she has to manage, and she does it in a way that causes her to be widely respected by her fellow cheerleaders. As if maintaining nearly perfect grades and cheering wasn't enough demand on her time, Zaya is often called on to be a caretaker for her younger siblings. This is evident in the maturity she displays every single day. In summary, Zaya was chosen to be the Student of the Month because of the outstanding young person she is and the tremendous value she adds to her school community. And this is written by her incredible counselor, Mr. Brad Tash.
I don't have much to say, but I want to thank everybody that, is cheering me on. I'm glad for this opportunity to be recognized for, just being me. And I hope it's just many more awards and everything for me. But thank you so much.
So we got a glimpse of that 5-minute personality. I'm captivated. I'm in, all in. All right. Who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my mom, my 2 brothers.
We need to get that photo. All right, everyone,
And
let's
the
go.
grandmother understood the assignment. She's all ready for the Bengals game tonight.
Is the Kiwanis people here today?
No, that's me.
Oh, you are the Kiwanis people, okay. I hope I'm removed.
So we're going to come back next month with the Skyline Student Athlete of the Month, and that will be Amaya Johnson. Amaya is participating in a game tonight, so she couldn't make it, but she will be back next month. Mr. Carl. So Ms. Stiles is spending most of her time writing great letters about other people. And so Mr. Paff is the teacher that everyone wishes they had. He is flexible and understanding. He is the ultimate problem solver, going above and beyond to solve problems before they even occur. He is always pitching in to boost building morale. Best of all, he truly loves his students and takes the time to teach them foundational skills that they will use for the rest of their lives. In order for Mr. Paff to receive this incredible award, he had to meet some criteria. And the first was excellence in the classroom, motivation, leadership, creativity, and imagination, dedication, and communication. The Skyline Teacher of the Month Award is sponsored by the Forest Park Skyline Chili Restaurant, a business partner of Winton City Schools. Teachers who are honored receive a Skyline gift card. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. So there's a rule, if you're taller than the podium, we expect you to speech.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the board and Ms. Stiles and anyone else at our building that nominated me for this wonderful award. I'm not much of a public speaker or one on getting kudos for anything that I've done, but I would like to thank Ms. Stiles for bringing me on board 3 years ago when I was at the 5th and 6th grade building. And I asked to come down, and she gracefully accepted me, and I appreciate that very much, and it's been very good. So thank you very much.
Keep in mind, sir, you're coming down means you came up, so way to go. That's it.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of those recognized. You're quite worthy of the recognition, and thank you very much. With that, we'll take a couple-minute recess, and we'll adjourn, or we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're back live. Thank you, everyone, and we're going to resume with our public comments. We have one speaker or one person this evening, Janetta Thomas. Thank you, Janetta.
Good evening. My name is Janetta Thomas. I have 2 students here in the district, 9th grade, and then my youngest daughter is in 2nd grade. I'm here on her behalf. She has Down syndrome. I'm here just with the request to the board to be working towards a more inclusive environment as far as the special education department goes. I was here back in June at the student board meeting, just requesting for accommodations for the back to school open house. I met with my school administration. The board had the support support from you all, but sadly, things didn't go as we had hoped. I just would like to encourage you all to think about the accommodations that are needed for children with disabilities within the district. I was told during that meeting with the school that there are 16% of children within the student body with disabilities, and that efforts could not be focused toward that 16%. So my counter would be just to think about whatever that percentage is, those students do still matter, and we should still definitely be accounted for and included and made for accommodations. A lot of times people throw around the word inclusion, and that, we want to bring students in and make it, for the same of everyone, but there are additional needs that children with disabilities need. So I would just hope that the district works towards more of the inclusive environment here in the district. Thank you.
Ms. Kuhn, I have a question.
Certainly.
Go back to the 16%. Help me understand that, because that is an accurate number, but I want to know what message you received.
Yeah, so that was during the meeting. I was told that there are 16% of children with disabilities within the Winton Woods district, and that we can't focus additional opportunities for, at that time I was talking about the orientation, but we couldn't focus additional resources and opportunities for the open house, the back-to-school open house. I know it was before, school had gotten back into session, so it was plenty of time ahead back in June. And by the time I was able to get the meetings and everything organized, it was last minute, which I understood that, and kind of worked towards more of like an open house or something after school had started to include children with disabilities. I mean, we went to the open house. It was a terrible time for my daughter. It was loud. There was the band there, and for like most typical developing kids, it's okay. But she had meltdowns. There was bowel accidents. Like, there was a lot going on. It was loud. We weren't able to talk with our teacher. There was, a lot that happened as a result. And I mean, I know I'm one parent, but I am, just kind of advocating for all children with disabilities with the hope that, the accommodations could be in place to.
Yeah, I realize you are one, but we count each person as one. And so that's how we get to be many. So we have a great opportunity ahead. We have the rest of the school year, so we can work on making some other arrangements. I appreciate you coming up today.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Thomas. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and we have no other public comments. We'll move on to comments to the board by, we're going to do a little slight variation. I'm going to pass back over to Mr. Smith. You want to, am I jumping out of your sequence?
It's
I'm
okay.
not doing it right.
It's all
What do you
right.
want to do?
Well, the Giblings wanted to do their presentation because they only live in another state.
No, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted, I wanted to make sure I segued properly.
Okay.
Shall we do it now? I will give the floor to you. Go ahead and,
Okay.
Blings.
Sir,
it
right
was
now, this is a one-woman show, so keep your seat. Keep your seat. She has this.
I want to thank the superintendent and the board for allowing me to talk about Brain Pop. Brain Pop is an online learning platform that we use in the district. It's K-8. And I started using Brain Pop a number of years ago because it provides lots of opportunities for differentiation and also for extension for our students. But for many years, Brain Pop was not easy to use in terms of being able to look at what your students have done and then design your instruction around what that data told us. And last year, Brain Pop listened to teachers, and I was one of a small group of 5 or 6 teachers who were invited to work with them and create teacher-friendly data reports. And they're called Inspire Dashboards, and I love them so much. I brought an example of, and you can see the pie chart, which is my favorite thing. So what they did is they listened to teachers and they heard, what do we need in order to be able to use the data from Brain Pop so that we could actually tailor our instruction to meet our students where they are. So these handy dandy pie charts tell me that on any given assignment that I've given my students, that this student was proficient in about half of the standards that we worked on, and was approaching proficiency in the other half. So now I need to obviously drill down, and you actually can. So if you, there, I know you guys can't see this, but you can actually look at each skill, and I can see what the student needs to work on. And this allows me to quickly create small groups. I've even done it like actually in the moment. My students do an activity, I pull up my pie charts, I see these 4 students still need to work on this area of vocabulary acquisition, and while the other students are working on something independently, I can do a quick small group to meet their needs. This is not just for ESL students, but also for content area, because BrainPop has math and social studies and science and SEL activities in it. So I just wanted to thank the district and everybody involved for actually supporting me by allowing the district or the teachers to use this to get to know it and also see where it needed to improve, and then BrainPop for allowing the teachers to have a say in making this a better resource for us. So, thank you.
Sure. Is it for all grades, or is it certain
It's
K
it's K-8.
Okay.
Although I would say that for students with knowledge gaps in certain areas, it would still work for maybe 9th and 10th graders, but it is officially K-8. So, yes, sir.
Well, I have a question. So you use it here in Winton Woods, but then BrainPop, how did they get to know about you and how much you use it and how much you recommend it to others?
BrainPop offered a course for teachers to become BrainPop certified educators, and I volunteered to do that. And from that group of teachers, they selected, it was 5 or 6 of us, I think we were 6, but one person had to drop out, to continue and actually kind of be their, I mean, you could call it consultants, but, and we met on weekend, and we did Zoom meetings on weekends, so.
That's
How do
awesome.
kids like the activities?
You know, I'm gonna be honest, some of them love them, and some of them are like, oh, BrainPop, you know, we have to do that. But, you know, it kind of depends on the kid, you know, it's hard to find things that every kid likes to do. But one of the great things about BrainPop is there are a variety of activities, and you can differentiate. So if I have a student who I know really doesn't like a certain type of activity because maybe they're not doing it, because I can see very quickly that they're skipping that activity every time, I can usually meet that standard through a different activity. Every movie in BrainPop has at least 8 activities to do it. They're also available in Spanish and French, and the district pays for the license for that. And then there's a specific ESL component as well for ESL teachers. So,
Very good.
And do we know how many other teachers in the district are using this platform?
I can only speak for the middle school, but I know that both ESL teachers use it. The science department uses it a lot because they have a really strong science curriculum and activities. And I also know that the math and social studies teachers pull from it to differentiate, and mostly for their students who have gaps, but there's some great enrichment in it as well, including making movies and coding, if you want to go in that direction, so.
Thank you.
Sure. One other question, the mentorship, does it, can you go down to the younger grades, or you have teachers that are in 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th that are using it as well?
I know that they do use it there, but because I'm not in their building, I
Right.
can't speak to
Okay.
how many and who uses it, but I do know that they use it in that building.
Okay.
in those
Can I
buildings.
ask, how do you use the data specifically to give feedback to the students or to the parents so that they know what they can help the students with at home?
So I have not started giving feedback to parents yet, because this is the first year we've had these Inspire dashboards, so I'm still working with it. I will start using Parent Square to send information home. You can send reports to the parents, and I might use it to say, you know, your child is doing great in this area, but here's an activity you could do to help them build skills in that area. With the students, I conference with my students about once a week, and BrainPop is one of the things we look at. And the pie chart is perfect for them because they can see those colors, and they'll almost always like, oh, what did I get green in? And, you know, then they'll say, oh, and I don't have any red here, but, you know, some of the students will have red, and they'll say, oh, what did I do red in? And we'll talk about why it's red and what we can do. So that's about a once a week thing. I know some of the other teachers conference with their kids too and use their BrainPop dashboards, so.
Ms. Gibling,
Yes.
are you planning to use this information for, with student-led conferences?
Yes, I definitely will.
Very good.
So I'll have my students print out their reports, and they can use it to actually talk to their parents about it.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
thank you.
That's good information.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more question? How much does it cost if we want to do it district-wide?
I believe we have, I'm looking at Ms. Hub.
We
I'm
have
pretty
it
sure we already
already?
have a district.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yes,
Okay.
right, yeah.
Thank you, and I appreciate letting us deviate slightly from our agenda. We'll move on to comments from our associations. So we'll start with the Winton Woods Teachers Association. If we have any comments, none. We'll move on to the Public School Employee Representative. Thank you.
My name is Robert Hodge. I'm the Secretary of the Union here on behalf of OPSI Chapter 271 and our union president, Shonda Ferguson Gordon. No new news.
Well, thank you for attending. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
We'll move on to 6.01, approval of minutes. Board, you have 2 minutes, two meeting minutes before you.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any comments or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Move on to Treasurer's Report, 7.01. It's Mr. Seymour, would you present the financial statement for August
Sure,
2023?
being only 2 months into the year, and tonight I'll review the appropriations, proposed appropriations for the board. But through August 31st, the general fund had year-to-date revenues of $15.7 million. Our month-to-date were about $2.3 million, and most of that was from our state support. Also, our expenditures year-to-date were $8.2 million through the month of August. And then the final page shows you the financial activity for all the funds and a list of what each fund has and it's available, showing a total balance of $23.9 million unencumbered fund balance for all funds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seymour. With no objections or questions, let the financial statements for the month of August 2023 be submitted for audit. We'll move on to our agenda point 8.01, which is Treasurer's recommendation and investments.
Yes, I'm recommending the board approve the investments for the month of July. We had interest earnings for the month of July of $177,435, of which $152,824 was the general fund, and the building funds are still earning interest for $24,600.
Okay, board, have a motion regarding the investment report?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the investment reports as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions for Mr. Seymour? Or any discussion? No. Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 8.02, which is the resolution for appropriations for fiscal year 2023 through 2024.
With the board's permission, I'll move a little so I can see the screen. I'm going to do a quick analysis of the appropriations for you. I'll be quick for you because we kind of did a presentation at the last meeting, so I'll do this. For the fiscal year 24 appropriations, total appropriations for all funds by fund type. Of course, the general fund is our largest fund, all on its own, and it's about 72 or 73% of our total expenditures for the year. We have capital project funds, debt service funds, special revenue service funds, and other funds. Our major special revenue funds, what am I doing wrong? Sorry. Our special revenue funds, our major ones are our athletic band and music at $250,000, auxiliary services for our private school, $365,000. We still have funds remaining in our American Recovery Plan, ESSER, $2.6 million, IDEA, special education, and Title I for $1.4 million. I believe Doug Sanker went over some of these special revenue funds with you at the August meeting when he was reviewing the continuous improvement plan. Our other major funds, our permanent improvement will be about $5 million this year. Our debt service funds are about $3.2 million. We still have appropriation for this year of $3.6 million in our building funds. And of course, our food service fund is a major fund of $2.9 million. General fund, as you know, you're just adopting the expenditure plan, but I was going to review the receipts for you to support the expenditure plan or the appropriations for the current fiscal year. For the general fund, we're going to receive approximately $54.6 million. We're still at a majority of that coming from local taxes and state foundation rollback, a small percentage from investments, other local income, and other state and federal income, with a majority coming from almost 95% coming from either the state or real estate taxes. Our property taxes for this year, including, will be about $25.2 million. Our homestead and rollback, about $2.7 million. Our interest income is estimated at about $850,000. That could be a little more if the rates go up again next month. Other local receipts of $1.4 million. Our state foundation's currently projected at $23 million, and other state and federal at $1.3. Our total district valuation for tax purposes collections, you can see we took a dip back in 2011 during the decline of property taxes, and in 2020 it started to increase back up, and I'm sure most of you have received your auditor's letter for the current year. In 2024, the estimated Hamilton County property taxes are estimated countywide to go up approximately 46%.
Well, not the taxes, the valuation.
The valuation, I'm sorry, not the
Sorry.
taxes, the valuation. And most people have probably received their letter from the county auditor. I'll go over that a little bit in a minute. Currently, our total current valuation is $564 million, and the new valuations won't go into place until January of 2024. Our voted millage is 91.74 mils. Effective is 51.52. Effective is what we collect on after reappraisals, and it's called House Bill 920. Your property values go down, and we're not permitted to collect any extra real estate taxes as real estate values go up. So the county auditor reduces it down to what's called effective millage. Our current general fund is at 44.17 mils. Permanent improvements currently at 1.5. And I will share with you that when the district first approved permanent improvement, it was 2 mils. So as you can see, as property values have gone up, the collected millage has gone down to 1.5. And then bond retirement's currently at 5.85. So this year, it's estimated, it's most likely going to be true. Our current residential value is $411 million. The proposed increase by the Hamilton County Auditor is approximately $189 million. That's, in Forest Park, that's a 46% increase. For Green Hills, it's a 47% increase. But Winton Woods will only receive an increase of what was known as that inside millage, the 4.65. The voted millage will be rolled back by the same percentage that the property value went up. And the proposed annual increase for Winton Woods of the reappraisal will be annually $880,000. So real estate taxes generated by the current rates and values will be approximately $27.9 million, including homestead and rollback, which is paid by the state for the exemptions
that are provided by the state. The district will only collect 1/2 of the proposed increase for the 2024 reappraisal. So current state funding, currently it's at $23 million. And you can see there that we get unrestricted, we're currently only at 17.5. Disadvantaged pupil impact aid is currently at $1,400,000. Gifted, 160. English learner, 508. Student success and wellness, 633. Career and tech, 8,000. Transportation, 1.9 million. Special ed transportation, 620,000. And preschool, 334. Everything up there is restricted on how we can spend it, except for state foundation unrestricted of 17 million.
Excuse me, Mr. Seymour, can you speak to the board and to the community of the cost of really operating the preschool?
The cost of, I don't have the total cost, but this is a small portion of what we get to operate the preschool. Is that
Okay.
what you're asking?
What is the overall dollar amount to operate the preschool?
I would say with the teacher salaries and everything.
Yes, sir.
It probably would approach $900 to $1 million.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay.
That's my best estimate right now. Of course, the current amount of state funding will be updated. As you know, currently we're in a new funding formula called the Cup-Patterson. And currently they haven't updated the funding for this current biennium or funding period, which is a 2-year period from the state. So we're operating currently with a $1.5 million increase from the state based on the original proposal. And it's anticipated that the data will be updated in October to reflect more current student data and district demographics. And at that time, I will update the state revenues for the 5-year forecast and present that to you. But currently, I'm just presenting the receipts as we know them today. We have other local receipts of tuition, rental of facilities, revenue in lieu of taxes, and then other miscellaneous receipts. We still have a few incremental tax financing projects that probably have 1 or 2 years left. But as you recall, in years past, that number was approaching $600,000 and $700,000. Other state receipts, we get Medicaid, state and federal. We get Medicaid reimbursement, approximately $550,000. Catastrophic this past year and future around $450,000. Catastrophic is where we apply for and receive state funding for special ed students which exceed a certain threshold of cost to educate that child due to their educational program. And then, of course, we get $250,000 from casino proceeds. So the total budget or appropriations proposed for 2024 are $59 million. Salaries of approximately $33 million. Benefits of $11 million or almost close to $12 million. Purchase services of $10.4. Salaries, supplies and benefits of $2.4. Capital outlay, $200,000, and then, of course, other, $855,000. So we're asking for a total budget or appropriations of $56,276,000. I'm sorry. I'm going to share with you last year's appropriations were $56 million. Our actual expenditures for the year were right around $53 million, and we had an appropriated savings of $3.3 million, or 6%. As you know, after we adopt the appropriations, I try to share with you where we're at on the appropriations and if we're under or below budget. And last year, we ended up about 6% under budget. So our total expenditures, you can see they were pretty constant. 19 through 22 went down because of some of our state federal funding, and then they started going back up in 23, and then in 24, it shows a rather sizable increase, but I'm pretty sure that the total appropriations, we will not spend all of our requested budget line items. We've included all the negotiated salaries, all reallocations of staffing, current to date, and then I've increased healthcare as projected at about 6% increase. And the way when you put it all together, instruction, the amount spent in the classroom, this is expenditures right in the classroom, are about 42 million or 71%. Operations, which is transportation, maintenance, administration, runs around 16 million or 27%, and then extracurriculars about 2% of the general fund budget. So in summary, we're starting out with about 17 million. We're estimating currently 54 million in receipts for an appropriated expenditures of 59 million with an ending cash balance of 12.8 or $13 million. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
We could go ahead and have a motion and have a discussion, board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2023-2024 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Questions for Mr. Seymour?
Not a question. Mr. DeMar, can you go back to the prior slide maybe? So, looking at this, the ending balance of 12.8 million, that doesn't include the potential additional revenue we might get from the state.
No,
from
it does not.
Patterson.
It
So-
does not at this point.
So that, if that occurs, that would positively impact the 12.8.
So would any budget
It would
savings,
be
yes.
higher, and then any expenditure savings.
Yes.
Could potentially also
Yes,
turn that into a bigger number.
right.
Yeah.
And I'll try to review that when I have those numbers
Okay.
for the 5-year forecast.
All right.
Mr. Seymour, so that the board can be refreshed on it, any idea when that may happen? I know Mr. Birdie just mentioned if there's additional funding, but October, November, any idea?
So
We
October.
were told sometime in October, but that doesn't always happen the way
Absolutely.
it's proposed.
And you're talking about the funding from the state that,
Yeah, state funding, sorry. Because the state funding, as you know, we were under the Patterson, which was a 6-year phase-in, and we received the first 2 years, and then they just started the next biennium, and I'm currently being funded at a 16% increase for this each year until they update everything the way the legislators passed it for this coming biennium, which we're in right now.
Correct.
And we are anticipated to get an increase, but at this point, it's hard to say until they roll out all the information. We have lots of numbers, lots of projections, but I don't hang my hat on them until I see them in a state foundation settlement sheet when we receive it for payment.
and that might be when, do you think? Or,
I'm pretty sure they were saying sometime in October. I don't know if it'll be the first settlement sheet or later in October.
and then one other question about
They will have to do that before November. At the end of November, the 5-year forecasts are due from all the districts around the state.
okay, good.
So they would want that updated before then.
Okay, and then a question, because the community might be a little bit confused about the property taxes and how they work. And you were talking about whatever the increase, which isn't the 40, it's not going up 47% for people. Obviously, their taxes don't go up
No.
47%. And 47% doesn't go to all the schools, so it's not like the schools is going to collect all this money. You said it was 880,000?
Yes.
And then that wouldn't come till the second half of
The
2024?
880,000 is the annual anticipation.
Okay.
Yeah, for this year, we would receive approximately 400,000 because the calendar year and the fiscal year don't coincide. Is that what you're asking?
Right, and it's in arrears a little bit, or does it catch up? Or, I was just wondering about when that extra money would come to the schools.
The money will come to the schools in what's known as the February settlement,
Okay.
when you get your first tax bill in 2024.
Okay. I just wanted, because it can be confusing, and I know a lot of folks got their property evaluation from their county auditors, and,
Any increase they receive, the schools are getting approximately 46% of that. The rest is going to all the other taxing entities that they provide real estate taxes to.
One other thing I thought was interesting, that the millage goes down as property taxes go up. That doesn't increase the tax, though, on that millage.
No, as the, on the voted millage.
Right.
If the value goes up 10%, the effective rate will go down 10%, so that you still collect the same amount of dollars.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Seymour, for this deep dive into the financials. And although some of the terminology for the public between millage and mills can be a little confusing, this information will be available. I also like to note that the 6% under budget, I think that's to be recommended. If most of us would love to always be 6% under our personal budgets. So the fact that we really do what we can to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with the monies that we receive, whether it's from property taxes or other sources. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote? Or, there was a motion, yeah, we have a motion. Yeah,
Yeah, we have a motion.
yeah, we have the motion, so would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to reports from the superintendent and school reports first.
Yes. We have a rare opportunity. We see Mr. Doctor as this incredible chef, this guy who's a guru with a knife and fork, but he also has some other attributes. And I'd like for him to come up and talk about the golf clinic. Before you do that, Mr. Doctor, could you share with the board and the community how many times you've had a hole in one?
Twice.
Okay, twice in your life? Okay, all right. I see the real pro. I see the real pro back there. I understand. All right. I just want to see.
Put the eyes on you, getting old. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wanted to sign my entire talk. But my skills need practice. So Kevin's father is here to sign for him, okay? I'm here to talk about an event that happened the first part of this month. Our golf team, which is Logan, Landon, and two others who could not be here, which was Everson Stallworth and Humont, right? Okay, yeah, Humont. I struggle with his name, sorry. They participated in a clinic that Kevin held over at Sharon Woods Golf Course. For those of you who don't know Kevin, I'm going to tell you just a little sampling about his history. First of all, he graduated from Winton Woods in 1999. Okay? Then he went on to Ohio State, and he was the first African-American golfer in Ohio State. He also winning the medalist honors in 2004 in the Big Ten Championship. He's played on events at the PGA. Apparently has 7 hole-in-ones. Maybe. That's under debate. We'll talk. And he's played on, and he's currently playing on the APGA, which is the Advocates Professionals Golf Association. And I just found out, because he was hiding this from me, but he was also inducted to the African American Golf Hall of Fame in 2022.
Whoa.
Which is a big. I personally am very proud and honored to have known Kevin for about 10 years. He's always had time for me with my golf, and I can just imagine, and I hope that my team, our team, got a lot out of that, the lesson that they received back 3 Sundays ago. You know, you get me emotional now. You know, they say that there are people that just light up a room. Kevin, in my personal opinion, he can light up the world, what he does. He's. And by the way, yesterday was his birthday, so. Happy birthday. Let's see if there's anything else. As I currently mentioned, we did have the honor to learn from him a few Sundays ago. I was going to ask the boys if they wanted to say something, but I know they won't, so.
Standing right there like
You want to say anything, Logan? Sure. It's Logan.
So, was it 3 weeks ago?
About 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago when I went to the golf clinic with Kevin, I learned quite a lot about what golf can do for people and how starting young is a great thing. The different opportunities that arise from all of the things you do in golf and the lessons that can be learned while playing and the reasons to play for it.
Very good.
I didn't prepare anything, but my story, being deaf and black in this world, I just want people to know, just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you can't do anything. So I would always find a way to communicate with people about success. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. That's what I want the kids to understand. That's all I have to say.
I think that's all. I mean, how do you follow that?
A tribute to you, Mr. Doctor. I mean, you have your hands full every day, making sure our kids are well fed and taken care of. For you to take the stretch and go beyond the scope to work with Kevin and his dad and the other students, I think it's commendable. Thank you very much. We totally appreciate you. Picture time. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
It's a larger group.
Yes.
Definitely don't want to be in the picture. I wanted to say hello to Kevin because I signed also. So I wanted to say hello to you. So I learned sign language many, many years ago. So it's nice to meet you. Welcome.
Nice meeting you. Thank you. I signed a little.
It's powerful, Doc.
Yeah, it
I saw
is.
you eager. I
Yeah,
saw you
like I got
getting
it.
excited.
My hands are ready to fly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fingers ready to fly.
Hey, don't forget about me. Don't forget about, okay, there you go. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you. All right, okay.
That's very good.
Yeah. Oh, really, really?
Yeah, hers
He grew up in
dad.
Forest Park?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. I've never been
Powerful.
before. But he probably knows my
Yeah, of your kids.
niece, yeah, because she graduated in 95.
Well, we'll
96.
move, it is really tough to go on because that's just a great inspirational story. And
Yeah, that
it
is-
warms my heart. It's wonderful. This is one of the reasons why we're all on the school board, I think, to see the success that this district does bring and the opportunities for our students. And it's very joyful to see that come to fruition. Mr. Smith, if you want to continue on?
Yes, Madam President and Board, if you don't mind, I would like to move the overnight extended student trip protocol to the next meeting and use it as a first read, because I'd like for the board to become more familiar with the process, even though we're going to have a discussion later on about a extended trip. I think the board would be more inclined to see what the protocol looks like, if you don't mind.
Would this be at a work session or at our next work session?
Both,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And then we had an earlier presentation by Lisa Giblin on the brain pop. So with that, we'll move to facilities update.
Mr. Denny?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, board. Boy, what a reminder of like why we get out of bed in the morning and why we do what we do. That was special. So I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update on facilities projects in the district this evening, so thank you for that. At the former intermediate school, or as we more appropriately should refer to it, probably the future early childhood center, we actually are now able to report out on 2 phases of work. So we're concluding phase 1, it's about, by billing, 88% complete. And phase 2 is started up and running, and by billing, it's about 9% complete. So we'll be at a period between now and December 11 or so, where there'll be an overlap in the phases. So, but happy to provide some updates. I would be remiss if I did not talk about the switchgear, of course. It is still on schedule to ship on October 16th. Got to make sure we always plug the switchgear.
What time, sir? What time? We're going to be sitting out there.
Can't wait to report, Mr.
I just want a picture.
So you know how we did the clap in?
Yeah, we're gonna all show up and clap in for that one, yeah.
Yeah, we should clap in for when the truck rolls up, we'll have to be sure we do a photo op or something. Clap in's even better. Right now, in anticipation of the switchgear arriving, we do have electrical infrastructure in process, so that when it arrives, it's basically set it and flip the switches, and it's then fired up, powered. If you've been by the school lately, you've seen they are setting rooftop units. You can see those are about, I think, 16 of those located on the roof that will provide HVAC, central air to the entire building. They're working on flashing and curbs on the roof to make sure that the HVAC equipment roof penetrations are sealed. Structural steel for the rooftop units. And also working on classroom and offices, the univents that provide heating. And then if you happen to roll past the kitchen, you'll see that that work is moving along, and they're hopefully going to pour concrete out there soon to complete the installation of the grease interceptor. So that's the phase 1 work. Phase 2, and I'll move quickly. There is an HVAC small scope of work in phase 2. Most of that's in phase 1, but that permit is in process. About 10% of the HVAC in the building is in phase 2-ish. Bleachers have been demoed out. There's a lot of demolition inside the building going on now. The old shop wing, or the music wing area as it was later on, that's being worked on. And they are starting to move walls inside the building, and they're also cutting in doorways. That's about 80% complete. So they're going to start saw cutting floors, as we've talked about. It was supposed to be tomorrow. Now it's going to be Friday. So that work is soon to start as well, so that the preschool classrooms will have sinks and restrooms and things of that nature. That concludes the update.
Mr. Denny.
Yes, sir.
Give the board a quick overview of our commitment to the staff and students in the ECCC, where we're meeting with them monthly.
Yeah, as we've talked about many times, I think sometimes they feel like a forgotten commodity of sorts. The facility we're in versus, the one that's served the district well for since 1958 in that building. So we're sure to try to connect with them each month. So there's a voluntary meeting we hold once a month where we sit down with the staff and just listen to concerns. What can we do as a district team to come alongside you and help make sure that your year is a good one and the best that it can be. And if there's things we can move to the side or barriers we can remove, then that's our task. And we get to do that once a month, which is
Knowing
good.
that they're in an older building, their energy, the energy from the last meeting was so positive. And I don't know if it was the sugar from the Daylight Donuts that Ms. Wilson provided, but it helped tremendously. Just imagine that everybody's new but you. And they're still focused, and they're talking about hey, will it have this kind of door? Will it have this kind of sink? Will the kids have these other opportunities? They are absolutely so positive and so excited. And I think part of it has to do with we kept our commitment that we would come back every month and have a conversation with them about what it's like. So that team consists of Dr. Martin, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Denny, and myself, and we plan to go back every month to have real robust conversations about this is how it's going to turn out.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you. They asked some great questions last time, had some great ideas.
Yeah, but they still aren't, or will not be getting those learning stairs. It just won't happen.
Where
Bridge
would
too
you
far.
put them?
Through the roof.
Yeah, right, they'd
Like
be
a
through the
little tiny
roof. This
stairs.
building's not that tall.
And then that would be, expect move-in date would be,
So we don't have an exact date, but
Okay.
the goal and things are on schedule right now to open, to move the staff. I think it's June 15 is substantial completion. But we want to move the staff in June, at July at the latest, so that they're ready to open for August.
Totally
24.
excited.
yeah, thank you. And I think that's really important to show that commitment to our teachers and staff at that building and giving them those monthly updates and then giving, the preview. So I think that's really exciting, and have the grand reveal later on. So I think that's a great strategy, so I
Yeah,
appreciate.
we could have opted to send them emails and
Yeah.
not good enough. They needed to have that personal touch, and I think that really makes a difference. And it's many of them that show up. I mean, it's a meeting that's really an unofficial official, but they come because they want to know more about the facility. And as soon as some of those other things get underway, right now you would have to have a hard hat to go through, but as soon as some of those things get underway, we're going to invite them to take a tour so they can see how awesome this building turned out.
Can the board be part of that tour?
We don't have hats big enough, but we can.
Well, can you,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
try to
yeah,
find
we-
some
of
to fit
course.
our
Yeah,
heads?
we can get hard hats.
We've already got hats.
I think we have them from before, but
You have hats that are for digging, not for,
oh,
Not
Yeah.
really safety.
not the same thing.
okay, I'm not a
But yeah, most
construction
definitely-
person, I don't know the difference.
Most
but
definitely,
okay.
Dr. Johnson, because I think that when you guys see it, you'll be excited and be
Yeah.
able to give
Well, I'm
them,
excited
a
hearing
better
about
overview
it.
to
The
the community.
updates are phenomenal.
Yeah, and we didn't go back to the taxpayers.
Yes, that's a biggie. That right there is a biggie.
Yes,
That's important.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
we'll
Mr. Denny.
Move on to superintendent recommendations. 10.01 is a retire, rehire resolution.
So we have a opportunity to have a retire, rehire on the board. And one of the things that we mentioned several years ago, some of our positions are really hard to fill and hard to find. And this would be an opportunity to approve the retire, rehire resolution as presented. Ms. Wilson, do you want to say more about this?
I will say that Connie Pouncey has been with us for over 20 years. Her children went through the district. And I know that she had to sit out in order to retirement for it's part of the retirement rules. And when I say her presence has been missed, that is an understatement. So we are hoping that the board will approve this because she is a critical piece to student services, and she has given us a commitment that if she's permitted to return, she will help us build a succession plan for when she ultimately plans to retire, which would be, probably 5 years or so.
Yeah, this was right in the middle of our audit. But I think the skill set that she brings to the table helps us get through that a lot easier.
Okay. That's good to have a background. And then a motion would be in order, board, and then we'll have some discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the retire, rehire resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. And then just for the value for our audience and for our viewing audience, her position is, can you tell us again her role?
She's the main support person to the student services director. So what she does is she gets all of the IEPs from enrollment, and she makes sure that we have every single piece of data that we need in order to forward those IEPs to the buildings so that schedules can be created and kids are in the right placement, so that we don't miss a beat when students enroll or train. And I'm sure she does more than that, but That's the part that affects my life.
Yeah, there's another critical piece, Ms. Kuhn, where we are not allowed as a district, because it violates a lot of different rules, to accept IEPs from out of state. And we have to modify those IEPs so that they're right. And, some of those IEPs are written with fidelity, but we're not allowed to, so she catches these well before we have to make the accommodations for students.
Okay, I have a question with regards to the timing of this, because be it therefore resolved to accept the resignation effective August the 1st and to reemploy on October the 1st. So is there a 60 or 90-day hold that she has to be out of the, is it just 60?
Yeah, we've already done the first one.
Oh, okay,
She's already gone through the board minutes.
right, okay,
Retired this summer.
okay.
After July 1st.
So it's already been
Yes.
30 days. That's what, I mean, that's what, but this doesn't read like that. Well, not to me, because it says effective August the 1st. So she was on the board minutes back in July. Okay. Mhm. So
So
that
those
makes
dates
it
match
90
up.
days.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's 90 days you have to be out.
And now you're just agreeing to
Bring her back, right, okay.
So I thought I read in here that it was 60 days. There was a 60-day period.
Is it 60 or 90? It's 90 for college. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
fourth
different.
paragraph down, it says 60 days.
It's 60 days, yeah. Thank you. I was like, I thought I read that.
Should it be
said
90
60.
days or is 60?
No, ours is
Okay.
60.
Okay, I just, yeah.
Higher rate
Very good.
is 90.
And then you said there's a,
It's 60.
It's in this
and it's great to
paragraph?
have great
Where's it at?
employees that can do all kinds of things, but I did appreciate the thought that you have a transition, a secondary person that'll learn the job in the event when she does want to retire.
That's what, yeah, that's what this experience is showing. It's like, okay, now she's ready, she's not quite ready to retire, but she's gonna help us identify some people that, have the wherewithal, and we're gonna start building capacity.
Good.
And just for public record, when someone retires, rehires, they come back to that beginning step. They don't come back to the step in which they left.
Correct. She'll be at the lowest step, and her vacation will start over at the lowest income.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that, thank you. And it is important in a critical role like this to have somebody that's well-qualified so that we don't miss a beat, because the main thing is to do things correctly as a school district. So we appreciate that was able to come back and not leave it void. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Sure. Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 10.02, the van driver job description.
Yes, Madam President and Board, the recommendation is to approve the van driver job description as presented. One of the things that we do realize, purchasing the van gives us a lot more flexibility, and there are people that don't mind getting the van certification. They don't want to be a yellow bus driver. And so there are times where we may have to do a small run with a bowling team of 3 as opposed to taking a big yellow bus. And it saved us on fuel time and some of the accommodations. So we decided that this would be a official position of the van driver.
Okay, the board, like to see a motion, we can discuss.
Madam President, I can make a motion to approve the van driver job description as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. And these are new responsibilities. Was this identified before, or these are brand-new job duties?
They're new.
Okay.
Are there any special, licensures
Yes.
that's
Special
necessary?
endorsements that you have to have. I believe that
Class
Ms.
A.
Wilson is a van driver, and Ms. Roselle. There are other people that meet the qualification. You have to take a physical and some other maneuverability, and
Is
it's,
it considered like a Class B license that you have? No,
You don't,
certification. Oh, okay. Okay.
is that done every year, or is that a requirement, or once,
The physicals every year.
every,
yeah, we're trying to move Ms. Wilson up to yellow bus, but right now, she's a little hesitant to do that.
It's sort of that all else is required across the bottom of your job description.
Other duties. as
Yeah,
assigned.
other duties as
I
assigned.
mean, it's a little bit
yeah.
easier to drive, I think, than than the bus.
Good.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Sure. Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion to approve van driver job description passes unanimously. Moving to 10.03, personnel schedules.
Ms. Wilson?
Before you, you have personnel schedules A, B, C, D, and E. And I would ask that you respectfully approve them all. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about them. A is resignation, B is certified staff, C is support staff, D is supplementals, and E is leaves.
Board, if you want to make a motion, and we can, if there's any questions or discussion.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. I did have one question that you can help me with. I think it's on Schedule D, and it has to do, sorry, well, it's 2 points. Sorry, I gotta find it here. Oh, if you can explain a little bit more about the restorative practices for both the male and female, just so that the public could understand a little bit about that.
Yes, so if you recall, last year, we offered a supplemental to 2 employees at the middle school to somewhat mirror what we're doing at the high school, based on feedback that that was an effective way to transition students who had been gone for either disciplinary reasons or maybe due to some sort of crisis or, personal situation, who had been away from school for a period of time, rather than just have them come back without a transition plan or some sort of contract moving forward. We would have a person or persons to support that. And so at the middle school, we don't have a position per se, but we've offered 2 supplementals to staff members. And while we have a male and a female, they will work with all students. It wouldn't just be, you're not just assigned to the males and females, but we do recognize that there may be, some things that, maybe you would want a same-sex or an opposite-sex person or a sex-neutral person to assist you with as you transition back to school, depending on what it is.
In addition to that, Ms. Kuhn, one of the things we realized was students were coming back from conflicts with other students, but in addition to the conflicts, they were starting to have some trouble catching up with their work. Mm-hmm. So because they've been out of school for a while, it was actually a better option, because here is an adult that can just kind of manage or help support you along the way and go and talk to teachers about getting you additional assignments. Because sometimes the downside of what you've done is in the classroom, and you've created a storm with that teacher. Someone else has to help you rebuild that trust all over again. So it wasn't just about the behavioral part, it's about the academic piece as well.
Okay. Thank you. And then I did have a question about the call center. Are these different people that were added to the roster of the
Yes.
call?
So from time to time, people are saying, oh, I'm interested in the call center, and if they have the right skill set or something that adds value, then we, are interviewing them and selecting them. So I think the 2 people that we've added, or is it 3?
3.
Shauna Ferguson Gordon is a former bus driver, and the other 2 are bilingual. So we're
Good.
really excited to have all 3 of them join our staff. And it's not every day, it's as their schedules permit.
Okay. And it's before and after the call center is? And is that, and I don't have the number, so you'll have to forgive me how well it's publicized, but all the parents and of both students that attend our school and the parochial or the private schools have that call center number that they could call? Okay.
Yeah, we have to have a lot of people in that rotation, even though they don't do it every day. because you're probably not going to get a call to say, hey, you're doing an incredible job.
No, I'm
right?
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're worried about their kids, I guess. So
Yeah, but
obviously
it's
they're
all,
having
but
anxiety.
the parents, when the parents said, hey, if you let us know where our children are, we can handle that part. And they have been very, very positive about the call center. And so it was a good breakthrough for us.
Well, I think all the communication, whether it's the call center availability and then the parent square and all the information that goes out to parents is really critical. And not unique to Winton Woods only, it exists in everywhere across the country right now with bus drivers being at a premium or a need for them and getting our students back and from school safely and on time so that their parents don't worry
here's a
about them.
surprise thing that the board and of course Ms. Hobbs was not aware of. We know how see, I have your attention now. I know that we created the call center for our own opportunity. Other superintendents have heard about the call center, and so they're going to want us to present at the Hamilton County ESC about how the call center works and how effective it could be, because they're having shortages just as much.
That would be great. I'd love to hear how it's helped our district. That would be
Yeah.
great to see too.
Okay. All right. Stay tuned, Ms. Hobbs.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to exempt employee salary schedule, 10.04.
Yes, the recommendation is to approve the exempt salary schedule effective August 1st, 2023.
Board, a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the exempt employee salary schedule effective August 1st, 2023 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any questions for Mr. Smith?
Just one, the steps, they went up slightly just to accommodate the increase, is that what I'm seeing?
So we did a review of our current exempt salary schedule, and Mr. Smith actually has 4 executives, two executive directors of teaching and learning, Mr. Denny's position, the executive director of business affairs, I'm sorry, Steve, I'm butchering your title, the executive director of business affairs, and then my position, executive director of HR and legal. I was the only person that had an executive, this level of administrative support. And so upon review of everyone's job descriptions and job responsibilities, the thinking was that all of the executives needed the same level of compensation package so that they could attract and retain the high caliber employee that my position attracts and retains. So we had to adjust so that it could be, equitable and we could get good people in those key roles. Because these are confidential roles, these are roles that require a high level of technical skill and intelligence, people skills, as well as versatility.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just note at the bottom, there is a note saying that movement along the steps is not automatic.
No.
No.
Very good. Good point.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other further questions, comments? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Move to 10.05, the substitute and temporary rates salary schedule.
Yes, Ms. Wilson, okay, you're still at the podium. To approve the substitute and temporary rate salary schedule effective August 1st.
Yes, so from time to time, we review our substitute rates so that we can remain competitive with other districts. In fact, a few years ago, we were one of the first districts to move to that $100 rate. And as soon as we did that, we noticed other districts they jumped ahead of us. And so from time to time, Randy and/or I will look at what other districts are doing and make adjustments accordingly. So in this one, Randy, was it just the
This is where we decided that long-term subs returning
Yes.
would not have to go back to
That's right.
$135 a
Yes,
day.
so we have some, because of the teacher shortages, we have some people that we've had to hire as long-term subs, which means that they've worked in the exact same position for more than 30 days without subbing casually, meaning maybe one day you're in ninth grade, then first grade, or, a different classroom. And so those people, if they've done it for 30 or more days in one school year, and then they come back, rather than have them start over at the $135 a day with no benefits, and then have to wait to make the bachelor's step 0, which is what long-term subs get after day 30, we would just start them there. So we have maybe, 5 or 6 people that were in that position, and I think you all approved some of them was last month. It was like our PE
Yeah, the legislator,
teachers
they're
and intervention
actually
specialists.
asking, encouraging districts to do it, especially the piece where Ms. Wilson mentioned, here was at the end of the school year, the person had this position. At the beginning of the next school year, it's the same position with the same group of students, the same grade levels, that we didn't want them to go back, because one of the things that actually does happen in certain systems, people will resign.
And another piece to it is, it's also part of our Grow Your Own program, where we have wonderful teachers that are people that are growing into the profession. So they've been substitute teachers or parapros. They've obtained a substitute teaching license. They've done a great job, and then they are either finishing up licensure or taking an exam. And we've got a couple of people in that situation where they are this close to being fully credentialed. And so hopefully between now and December, they will take their exam and finish up their coursework and be fully credentialed teachers as well. And so rather than lose them or put them in a situation where it's not financially viable for them to continue, we are supporting them in obtaining their licensure.
Yeah, sorry. I appreciate all the information, but we probably should have a motion.
Oh.
And not that I think we asked questions, but go ahead.
We did.
I'd like the motion, Board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the substitute and temporary rate salary schedule effective August 1st, 2023, as presented.
I'll second that.
Good. Now we're up to date there.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to have all that information. And just so we know, when you were talking about the 100 to 135, that was regarding substitute teachers. That wasn't every job. There's different rates for different jobs.
No, it's just,
Okay.
we're specifically talking about substitute teachers.
But this did go through and looked at every job that would have to have a,
So the other rates didn't change. This is just, the reason.
That's the only rate that changed.
okay.
The reason this is in front of you is because of this, we are asking you to approve the provision that says that long-term subs,
Okay.
upon the discretion of the superintendent, could start at the bachelor step 0, rather than having to start over.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Nope. Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going to go to 10.06, van drive salary scale, van driver salary scale.
Yeah, the recommendations to approve the school van driver salary schedule. Ms. Kuhn and Board, we had to do something a little different than the buses, because we were concerned if the salary were comparable to a bus driver, we may have people wanting to just drive the van and not the bus. So we had to readjust and make some adjustments, and I think that the salary is fair and equitable.
Okay. Board, if there's a motion on the floor, we'll discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the school van driver salary scale as presented.
Okay.
I second.
Motioned and seconded. So it's a scale step from 0 up to 27, and it's an hourly rate that's proposed. Any questions or comments?
No, I'll just note, there's been a change in the Ohio Administrative Code where previously, community school students and non-public schools and homeless students, you couldn't transport them every day in a van. But now ODE has changed the administrative rules where that is now possible using vans. You don't have to use a school bus for those students. So this is just another way that we can, transport students in a more efficient manner using the resources that we have. Another piece to this, I don't know if you all are familiar with the legislation that says that if we have 10 or more consecutive days of complaints about transportation, we can undergo some penalties, financial penalties. Are you all familiar with that? Well, it's a new provision in the law. So this is another way to address or combat any penalties of that nature by being able to sort of move students using our vans in a more efficient
South of
manner.
us district was hit with a penalty of $2.5 million.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Seeing none, would you call the vote, Mr. Seymour?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to 10.07, proposal for overnight extended student trip.
Yes. Madam President, before I present this information, there's just, I'd like to personally note that I am totally in favor of the trip. However, there are some logistics that need to be considered as the board works through making the final approval. The first one is I'm waiting for the acceptance letter from Disney to say that they want the band to be in the trip, on the trip. I haven't seen it. Second, the departure date for the trip is March 13th. The celebration of excellence is March 14th, the next day. The fundraising for this trip is about $1,100 per student. And then finally, students in grades 11 and 12 are on the trips to Chicago and Washington, D.C. 2 weeks later. The showcase can actually it can be worked out with both campuses because we could just move the South Campus showcase to the 14th and move the North Campus to the 7th. We can trade that. But some of these others are a little more difficult to manage. What I would like to see is the parents have a meeting to determine if they really want to do this, because Mr. Seymour can tell you, based on previous situations, parents have made commitments, and then as the money changes, they drop off. If the money changes and they drop off, then the quad that you were going to sleep in turns into a double, and somebody has to make up that price and make up that fee. And so those are some of the concerns that I have initially. Again, I am one of the first people, because of my band experience, I really want the kids to go and have this experience, but usually a trip like this would have been planned for 2 years in advance.
Do you want us to make the proposal, to vote on it today, since you're not really sure? Should we wait, or what would you want us to do?
What I would like for, okay, so we want to give them a fair opportunity to make this a reality. And if you don't vote on it as a positive today, they can't start raising money because they can't raise money on something that they don't know that they get to go on.
Okay.
So,
Oh, well, let's
let's do a
let's
recommendation.
have a motion.
I make a
Mr.
motion,
Seymour.
yeah. I make a motion to approve the proposal for overnight extended student trip Winton Woods High School Band, March 13th through 17th, 2024 to Orlando, Florida, as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Go ahead, Ms. Bryant.
So I'm just looking at the dates here. So the 13th through the 17th, but it also overlaps with the Night of Excellence. You said you can switch one to another.
We
But
may be able to.
maybe, okay, but then you mentioned there was a trip for,
Mandatory trip for students in the Academy of Global Studies, which those students are in the band, that come up 2 weeks after that, right after spring break.
so the week of the 25th, I guess?
Yeah, and these are paid trips. These are trips where students have to
Okay.
pay.
So just trying to figure out, is there a conflict, how they're gonna resolve that? Will all students have an opportunity to do both trips, minimizing the financial impact to parents?
Well, when you talk about the financial attributes, Ms. Bryant, it may be about $1,500 per kid to do both of these.
Oh, okay.
But in
So
the
could
past,
you
we,
say- I'm sorry.
no, that's okay, go ahead.
Could you say the AGS student trip is going to be the following weekend? So
No,
it'll
the
be
following week, Dr. Johnson is spring break.
So it's like the week of the 24th, it looks like.
Oh, okay, the week of the 24th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Brady?
I was just going to say, in the past, we've approved things at the board level that have not occurred because of like COVID,
Or that
travel
stopped, yeah.
issues, insurance, whatever. The things did not happen.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I think it's really important, regardless if the trip happens or not, I think that students need to know that the board and the superintendent believe in that this would have been a good idea. There are all kind of variables that may come into play. But I'm also a little reluctant about some of the third-party vendors because the travel agent that's making this happen clearly states in his document that he does not make the final decision if something goes wrong. And not raising the money for the trip is one thing, but raising the money for the trip and not being able to get refunded because of a circumstance, we've been there before.
Well, that was gonna be my question, is about, since I know we do use a third-party agency to book a lot of these trips like this, if then, whatever, a third of the band members, it's 2 trips, I mean, that's a lot of money to come up with, decide that they can't afford to go to this one or the other one, and they've committed. Looks like either the AGS student trip or one of these trips, you said 2 trips, there's an AGS trip, and I guess
Well,
there's
there's
another.
one to Washington DC for seniors and one to
Oh,
Chicago for
seniors,
juniors.
okay.
And those kids are in the band.
Yeah. So I guess my question or statement or concern would be, then if you book with this third-party agency and one of these 3 trips, it's 3 trips we're talking about, falls through, what
Well, let
about
me
the students
caution
who
you,
have
the-
committed their money?
The
Do
one
they
with
lose their money?
The one with the Academy of Global Studies is a different type of trip. That one
That's the
is,
UN
it's a
trip?
very solid trip, usually developed by Mr. Amstad.
Right, mhm.
Okay, so this one doesn't have the same issues. But remember, with the Disney experience, you're talking about carrying instruments and uniforms. It's a whole story. And as I mentioned before, trips like this I've been part of, but these are trips that carry a fundraising opportunity years in advance to make them really kind of make sense. I know people may say, well, if you don't do the trip now, Superintendent, then a 12th grader wouldn't go. That happens. It's sort of like the buildings that we're in right now. There were people on the visiting board that never got a chance to be part of the school experience. So we have to look at it, but we have to do it right, because if parents start dropping off and you take a 40-piece band to Disney, you will never be invited back again. So it has to be done with fidelity, it has to be right, and it has to make sense to parents. And I'd like to see another meeting with parents to say, are you really committed to this trip?
Okay. So what we want to do is, obviously, the board does endorse these experiences, just like you do. So on this one, this just gives permission to start the process with the approval of the board. It doesn't mean that it will happen, because you've got concerns or until those are addressed. So are there any other questions from the board?
Because the administrators received the proposal on August 28th. This is the first time that the board could have met together to have a real conversation about it.
Okay.
I do have another question, concern, whatever. You mentioned that the showcase, and you were referring to the night of, or celebration of excellence.
Yes.
But you said there was something about an acceptance letter from Disney. So are they to march in a parade for Disney?
They are marching in a parade down Main Street in the most iconic part of Disney. And believe it or not, some people get rejected, because you're really supposed to show video, send some film, send some information. I don't want to get our kids so excited, and then they're saying you don't meet it, whatever that is. So I would like to see.
We haven't received that letter.
I know that in the travel arrangements, it specifies that you had to be accepted.
And that letter is not part of our documentation that we have
I've
here?
not seen that letter,
It's
Dr.
not in
Johnson.
here.
And
Okay.
because the first payment, the first installment would have been $200, which would have been in September. Well, it wasn't even in front of the board before that time. And then there are subsequent installments of $230 after that, which gives the kids the full total view. The other part, in the document, it mentions that students would provide their own lunch on travel? Absolutely not. We would not do that. We would make sure that students had the lunches to travel on the bus. Because some kids think that Dorito is a meal. It is not. It's a bag of stuff.
It's not?
No, sir. So if we're going to treat our kids right, we have to do the right thing to make sure that their experience is great.
Okay.
And the only other thing I'd say is make sure that the AGS students know the cost of both trips.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that, I mean, you already mentioned that. so
Yes, sir.
Just making
Yes.
sure that they know
Yeah.
that to begin.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes with a little resistance there, I guess. On to 10.08, resolution
Let's do something more fun.
for National Principals Month. And I did ask Dr. Johnson to read that resolution.
Yes, so you would like for me to read it now?
If Ms. Bryant read it, I'm sure she would read it expeditiously.
So for those of you in the audience, I am a huge Bengals fan, and I love the district, but I'm looking at Mr. Denny as we're looking to communicate, like, it's almost kickoff time. I love y'all.
We'll do this.
We need to be authentic here.
Maybe we can get you down there in one of those vans.
Here is the proclamation for National Principals Month, October 2023. Whereas each year, the month of October is designated National Principals Month in recognition of principals, assistant principals, and other school administrators for their steadfast commitment to ensuring that every child receives a quality education, and whereas principals and assistant principals are responsible for the day-to-day operation of their school, which includes leading the instructional program, acting as disciplinarians, managing educational initiatives, and building relationships with students, teachers, parents, community partners, and others to achieve excellence. And whereas principals and assistant principals work diligently to establish a positive tone for their school and provide supportive and safe school environment where students learn, grow, and thrive. And whereas we are very proud of our principals and assistant principals and sincerely appreciate their ongoing efforts to inspire success and a lifetime of learning in Winton Woods City Schools, and also to promote the importance and value of public school education in this community. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Winton Woods City School District is pleased to join other boards of education across the United States in proclaiming October 2023 as National Principals Month, and encourages the citizens of the Winton Woods City School District to join in the celebration of National Principals Month by thanking all school administrators for the care and concern they show our children. Adopted this day, 25th day of September 2023.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Board, there'd be a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution, National Principals Month, October 2023, as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Thank you to our principals. Is there any comments or?
Yes, Madam President, I have one.
Okay.
I've seen Nurses Month, Bus Drivers Week, Principals Month. I would just like to see a superintendent hour. It would just behoove me to just get that.
I thought we
All
had
right.
that. Didn't we do that last week?
Oh, okay. Any other comments, questions?
I would like to say thank you to all of our principals, assistant principals, and the
Awesome
other
group.
administrators.
Incredible, talented
They are
group.
incredible. They do what they do every day, and they do it with fidelity, and I appreciate that. As an
Right.
educator, I appreciate that.
Say ditto.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
guys.
Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Move on to 10.09, the resolution for National School Bus Safety Week. And Mr. Birdie, would you read that for us?
Proclamation National School Bus Safety Week, October 16th through the 20th, 2023. Whereas the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education recognizes the critical and important role that the bus drivers are entrusted with on a daily basis, and whereas the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education commends the dedication of these drivers who provide safe transportation for students and staff members of our district, and whereas bus drivers demonstrate a positive role model to reinforce the importance of education and support for family, schools, and community, and whereas the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education, as a stakeholder in the educational development of these children, expresses its appreciation and support for the drivers and the staff of the Winton Woods Transportation Department. Now therefore be it resolved that the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education proclaims the week of October 16th through the 20th, 2023, to be a week of sincere appreciation for the important role of the staff of the Transportation Department of our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. I'd like to have a motion on the floor.
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for National School Bus Safety Week, October the 16th through the 20th, 2023, as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's motion seconded. Any comments, questions?
I'd just like to say again, thank you to our bus drivers. They have an awesome job, an awesome responsibility to transport our children safely to and fro, and we do appreciate what they do for our children.
Absolutely.
Yes, very much so. Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Move on to Agenda 10.10, District Calendar, the 2025 through 2026.
Yeah, the only adjustment, Ms. Kuhn, was we wanted to make sure that we're 2 years in advance on the calendar, so the 25-26 is in front of you. And we wanted to make sure that we included the fall break, October 16th, 17th, with the records day being on the 18th. No, it can't be the 18th.
The Monday.
Yeah, whatever it might be. 21st, 20th, I'm sorry,
Okay,
20th.
very good. And motion on the board, or motion from the board, please.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the district calendar for the school year 2025-26 as presented.
I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, motioned and seconded. Very good. As Superintendent brought out, that the district creates calendars several years in advance, the importance of planning that the school district goes through, so we appreciate that.
Helps parents tremendously.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Any questions? Or
Just don't take this as the final version, right? This could change
could modify?
before that school year. It
Yeah.
could.
It could change.
It could. So you should check on the website periodically.
You should check on the
before
website,
schools-
but because we have a very efficient communications team and Parent Square is second to none, we will make sure you have the updates if things do change.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. On to 10.11, revised 2023 to 2024 district calendar.
Yeah, we just had to make a slight change to make sure that the revisions were the same. So the 12th and 13th is the fall break, and the records day is that Monday.
And that was the only change on this calendar? Okay.
One of the things that we wanted to do, people have to understand the purpose of the fall break. It has an academic flavor to it. So students who may be struggling or they haven't gotten all their assignments turned in, they have the whole weekend to get it done because the quarter doesn't start until that Monday. So they have some extended time to do it on their, they probably won't get a fall break, but it benefits them going into the course. The next level, of course, is, passing that course with fidelity.
Okay.
So just the term will start that Tuesday, the next term?
The term, yes, it starts
Okay.
that Tuesday,
Okay.
yes.
Board, if, make a motion.
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised 2023-2024 district calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Motioned and seconded. And then you got your answer to your question, right, Ms. Bryant?
I did. I think this just echoes Mr. Birdie's point about checking and making sure, because that very slight tweak, we want to make sure parents are aware. So I am not sure, will there be an additional announcement that'll go out in Parent Square?
Any change that takes place But there'll be additional, for instance, there was additional information today. Today was a records day, or a professional development day, excuse me. So information went out to parents. It must have worked because no one showed up.
Okay, good.
A day off, nobody misses getting a day off.
All right. Any other comments? No? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. On to Board of Education reports. Legislative report, Dr. Johnson.
Okay, I'll try to get through this quickly. Our legislative report, there's some districts to update the Calamity Day policy. Our district has already addressed this, and we're well ahead of this, and we made provisions long before this became a state requirement. But instead of having the hazardous weather days and doing it that way, or blizzard bag days, those are terms that, you know, from the past, we don't use those anymore because we've already made the adjustments to our schedule so that our students could get their work. So the other thing is the College Credit Plus bill. It advanced to the Senate, and the chair of the Senate Workforce Higher Education Committee is looking to move the plan and overhaul the program, allowing all high school students to take college classes at no cost. So you might say, oh, I thought it was for everybody. But while tuition costs are covered for public school students attending public colleges and universities, up to the state's 30-hour limit, private and homeschooled students had to apply. So they're looking at all students who are Ohioans that would be qualified. So it's still pending, it's nothing final, but that's what they're looking into. The next thing was the working group to examine the school bus safety. There was a deadly crash, and Governor DeWine has named a 13-member panel to review the state's school bus-related regulations and safety requirements following the death of this student. The creation of the Ohio School Bus Safety Working Group was established about a week after this crash, where in addition, 22 individuals were transported to area hospitals. This goes along with House Bill 140, where they're making changes to the law governing the passing of school buses, and Mrs. Wilson mentioned a little bit about some other school bus legislation that is on the books. The next thing I thought was important to mention was the preschool ranking, with everyone talking about test scores and this and that. Ohio in general, overall, failed to crack the top 25 in the 3 categories that were analyzed by the National Institute for Early Education Research. It did say that Washington, D.C. was the only jurisdiction to finish in the top 5 for each category. It's important to note as we move forward, and we just heard Mr. Denny talk about the layout and for our preschool village, that we're moving forward in the proper, setting the proper foundation for our wee warriors so that they will, you know, be able to compete on the national level and represent the state of Ohio. The next thing is the literacy survey. Public school districts must provide the state with information about their literacy curriculum and reading, the intervention materials, they said by October the 6th, and this requirement is part of the House Bill 33, and the spending outline featured several provisions backed by Governor DeWine, and it was intended to prove the young Ohioans' reading score. You remember I mentioned a few months back about how he was developing this to align with the science of reading method that was introduced by Governor DeWine, and this goes along with House Bill 117, which was to eliminate the retention under the 3rd grade reading guarantee to expand the grades for reading for the 3rd graders and not to hold them back. The next thing was in the legislation, they were talking about the new COVID variant that was detected here in Ohio, and the Department of Health Director Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff had talked about the COVID-19 variant, and this is what it's called, BA.2.86, and what that means, I really don't know, but that's just what was presented in the legislative report, but that it had been detected, and the agency noted that the Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention considers this new variant something that we should keep our eyes on. And at this point, there was no evidence that this variant is causing any more severe illnesses or hospitalizations or death. But it also said to stay tuned as the federal regulators work to approve the latest COVID, and they're still calling it COVID-19 shot booster. The next things that I wanted to talk about are just kind of a recap of the House and Senate bills that have been introduced. Some are continued, reported, or referred, and then some are passed. Believe it or not, and Mrs. Wilson mentioned it as well, the Grow Your Own Teacher program is still being introduced and referred. I guess everybody's not on board with it. I'm not really sure why, but it's still in the introductory, still trying to kind of march it around and get everybody on board with it. The House bills and Senate bills that are continued, reported, or referred was the bill that we talked about, House Bill 6, with the Save the Women's Sports with athletics, so that there's a separate single-sex team for the sports. House Bill 12, which was the renaming the Department of Education as the Department of Education and Workforce. The mental health days, House Bill 38, mental health days for students. And we talked about they get these days off, but then they come back and they're stressed out because of the work they missed. So that's not, they haven't said anything how to address that. House Bill 47, which we talked about the automated external defibrillators. The reason why that's still there is they don't have any money to train people. They want it to be there, but they haven't set aside any funds to train people. Also, the over-the-counter drugs, that's House Bill 70. A policy regarding the administration of over-the-counter drugs to students. House Bill 135, which is school attendance, which will grant students excused absences to participate in 4-H and Future Farmers of America. And we don't really have that so much here, but that could affect us as well. House Bill 139, which sports officials, penalties for assault of the referees or violence at high school or junior high school games. House Bill 147, which is teacher regulations, looking at the teacher hiring practices and conduct unbecoming of teachers in the profession, and that's been continued. They couldn't agree to what should happen. House Bill 216, which is the bullying policy, and these are all the ones that we had talked about before in the past, just kind of let you know that they're still being continued, they're still being reported on. Teachers without licenses to expand the eligibility for veterans and people from the armed forces without teaching licenses to teach. See how that works. That's all I'm gonna say. Senate Bill 49, religious freedom, religious expression days, offering those days for kindergartners up through 12th grade in public schools. Senate Bill 66, student records, making sure that students' records are transferred to their other school, in 5 days, in 5 school days. And I think we're pretty good with that, but not all schools aren't good with that, so it holds up, what students are able to get started. And Senate Bill 128 is the for-profit schools, and I guess this is to require the disclosure for the for-profit schools, their status of their community school operations, post-secondary educational institutions, and various promotional scores, test scores, because they publicize what everybody else is doing, but the public schools, or, the private schools, they don't have to. So this is on the floor, and it's been referred to the Senate. What has passed is the Parents' Bill of Rights, where it talks about adopting any curriculum that would talk about student health and wellness and any sexually explicit content, and that has passed the House. So that concludes my legislative report, and this has been sent to you in your email. Yes.
Yeah, there's one other component. As the district moves towards solidifying diversity, one of the things that we need to be very cognizant of is it says in designing diversity policy, school boards first should be clear that the purpose behind their policies is to reap educational benefits for their students. In other words, school boards should understand and be able to articulate in policies themselves how their diversity policies will deliver pedagogical benefits. Reliance on academic studies is one basis. This is all in that same bundle with affirmative action, so it is on the way. People talk about diversity, but their programs are not very diverse. So we have to look very carefully at the policy and make sure the policy does follow the mandates.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Smith.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the Great Oaks Career Technical Center. Mr. Birdie?
I sent an email out to everybody earlier today with the normal documents, the board highlights and the CEO report, as well as some other legislative reports. Just to hit some highlights, Great Oaks has seen a 12% increase in the junior and senior enrollment this year over last year. So it's gone from 3,236, or it is now 3,236, and it was 2,882 last year. So they've had a pretty significant increase. At the last board meeting in September, we approved a $10,000 grant that Great Oaks received for Winton Woods for Project Lead the Way. My understanding is those funds won't be available until next school year, but they will be used for teacher education as well as possibly some equipment needs. And I would assume that there would be some communication with Great Oaks staff as to how those dollars would be used. And then we had one student in the Spotlight on Student report, Brandon Orr, is a culinary arts program. And he competed in a Quiz Bowl Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia, and I don't know how he did, but I'm assuming that the fact that he got there is a pretty good thing. And then we currently have 141 students, juniors and seniors, enrolled at Great Oaks.
From our district?
From our district, from the Winton Woods district. 138 of those are at Scarlet.
Mm-hmm.
Since
And the
that's
other four,
region, and
the other satellite?
The other three are at, two are at Harrison, and one is out in Milford, and I'm sure that's because of the programs that they offer only at those campuses,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to, let's see, I don't think we have any board motions or recommendations, but we will move to comments from members of the Board of Education, Superintendent and Treasurer. Dr. Johnson, would you like to
No,
start?
the only thing I wanted to say is, again, we always stop just for a few minutes to say thank you to our community partners. We say thank you to the police chief for Green Hills for his service to the community and how he's worked with the district over the years. And to all our other community partners. And it's always good to see our students come in and be honored and, you know, because you kind of get a face with a name and you start looking for them in these various activities. So that's just about it. And just appreciate all the administrators and everything they do. So just thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Ms. Bryant?
How can you follow Dr. Johnson? She always says everything. I just want to go ditto, ditto, and ditto. I do want to add, it is definitely an honor. I applaud all those who have been honored tonight, and thank you guys for all the tireless work. One thing I wanted to mention to the public, if you have any issues, please come to the board meetings. I always love when the parent comes and she has the comment and advocating for her daughter. We want to see that. I know social media is powerful, so occasionally you'll see these random things about the district online, and we take everything we hear seriously and see. But please come to the board meetings. Please call your principals and the superintendents and follow the chain of command and try to get resolution to issues. We'd much rather for you to come to us and hold us accountable than to put it on social media and it takes a life of its own. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thanks. And who day?
Mr. Birdie?
Just quickly, I mean, Chief Fertelman has been a great partner, I think, with the
Yes.
school district
Yes.
since he came to the village of Green Hills, and we appreciate his assistance and his help and his cooperation with the school district, and Mr. Denny, you too, because he talked about it being cooperative, And the reason it is because obviously both parties are interested in getting to the right place with the things that need to be done for the children and the students. Thank you to the school bus drivers, the principals, and the assistant principals. And then Mr. Doctor for bringing Kevin Hall back for a golf clinic. That's pretty impressive that Kevin chose to come back and help with those golfers that we've got right now. And then I was very intrigued by the brain pop conversation with Ms. Giblin. So that's great to hear those kinds of things are being looked at for our students.
Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you like to?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith isn't here, but I would echo, I think it takes community. We've seen it, all of the highlights, whether it's students, parents, community members, if whatever position you have within our community, we have to work together to invest in the future, and that's our students, and that's through public education. We see it when these honored children are here, we're getting awards and recognition, see it happening as it happens, and then also when these students come back as alumni and give back to their students that followed them. I think I'd love to hear these stories of accomplishments and what they've done post-graduation, and it just gives, I know the board and our administrators appreciate the work that goes in it, and they see it, how it comes out later on, and that's very important. So investing in your community today, tomorrow, and forever, public education strong. So Mr. Smith, would you like to offer any other?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Is there there's a need for an executive session, I believe?
Yes. Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to confer with the public's body's attorney concerning pending or imminent court action, in this case pending.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
No,
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye. Motion passes. There will be no business that would follow this executive session, so we won't reconvene, but we do thank Waycross Media for videotaping tonight's meeting. Wish everyone a safe, happy evening. Meeting
thank you.
into executive session.